Right now, somewhere in your phone, there are 300 contacts. You could message any of them in the next 10 seconds, and yet tonight, you might still feel completely alone. That feeling isn't a modern glitch. It's older than agriculture, older than fire maybe, and the answer to where it came from is far stranger than you think. You assume loneliness is a byproduct of modern life. Too much scrolling, not enough real connection, cities full of strangers who never learn your name. That story feels true. It is also incomplete. Your brain didn't evolve in a city. It evolved in a group of about 50 people. Everyone in that group knew your face, your voice, your worth. There was no such thing as being surrounded by people who didn't know you. Every face was a known face. Every voice belonged to someone whose story you understood, whose children you'd watched grow, whose mood you could read from across a clearing. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying primate brain size against group size, and he found a pattern that became famous. The size of a primate's neocortex predicts, almost mathematically, how large a social group that species can maintain. When Dunbar applied the formula to humans, one number kept appearing. Human beings are wired to comfortably track around 150 relationships. Not 300, not 3,000, 150. Beyond that number, your brain starts to lose the thread. Names blur, faces become interchangeable. People stop feeling like individuals and start feeling like scenery. So what happens when you live in a city of 9 million people, but your brain only has bandwidth for 150? You get exactly what you feel most nights. A room full of faces and a mind that registers almost none of them as real. A subway car packed shoulder to shoulder and somehow still not one person there to catch you if you fell. Here's where it gets stranger. Loneliness itself was never a flaw. It was a warning system. Psychologist John Cacioppo, who spent his career studying isolation at the neural and hormonal level, argued that loneliness works exactly like hunger or thirst. Hunger tells you your body is low on fuel. Thirst tells you your body is low on water. Loneliness tells you something just as urgent. Your social safety net is too thin. Cacioppo's research found that chronic loneliness raises stress hormones, disrupts sleep, and even changes how the immune system behaves, as if the body itself were bracing for a threat it can't quite name. That's the part most people miss. Loneliness was never designed to feel comfortable. Pain isn't supposed to feel comfortable. A warning system that felt pleasant would fail at its one job, which is to make you do something about it immediately. For most of human history, that warning kept people alive. Picture a small band of early humans, maybe 40 strong, moving across open grassland. No walls, no locks, no emergency numbers. The only thing standing between one person and a hyena, a rival group, or a bad fall was the number of people paying attention to them. Someone alone on the savanna wasn't just sad, they were prey. A lone human, without the eyes and ears of a group scanning the horizon in every direction, was slower to spot danger, slower to react, and far easier to kill. Groups meant more eyes watching for predators, more hands to carry an injured member back to camp, more warmth on a cold night, more mouths to help finish a kill before it's spoiled, more voices to raise an alarm before a threat got close enough to matter. Every one of those benefits depended on one thing: staying inside the group, physically, socially, emotionally inside it. So evolution built you an alarm. When you drift too far from your group, emotionally or physically, something inside you starts to ache. That ache isn't weakness. It's a 50,000-year-old signal, still firing perfectly even though the hyenas are gone. It doesn't know the hyenas are gone. As far as your oldest instincts are concerned, disconnection still means danger, whether the threat is a predator in the grass or an unanswered message on a screen. But here's the twist that changes everything. Ancient humans were almost never alone in the way you are alone. Anthropologist Blaffer Hrdy studied hunter-gatherer child rearing and found something modern parents rarely experience: A baby in a foraging band might be held, fed, or soothed by a dozen different adults in a single day. Not just the mother, aunts, grandmothers, older siblings, unrelated group members who simply happened to be nearby when the baby fussed. Hrdy calls this alloparenting, and she argues it shaped human psychology itself. Human children were built to expect a web of caregivers, not just one. According to her research, this constant rotation of attentive adults is part of what makes human infants unusually trusting, unusually social compared to other great apes. Think about that. Your ancestors, as infants, were passed hand to hand through a small crowd of people who already loved them, who already knew the sound of their cry and what it meant. There was rarely a moment when no one was watching, no one was holding, no one was close enough to notice if something was wrong. You, as an adult, might go an entire day without real physical contact from another human being. You might eat 3 meals without another set of eyes across the table. You might sleep in a room by yourself in a building full of strangers doing exactly the same thing, each one convinced they're the only one feeling it. That's not a small shift. That's a complete inversion of what your nervous system was designed to expect. Question: if ancient life was full of constant close contact, does that mean ancient humans were never lonely at all? Not quite. And this is where the real answer gets uncomfortable. Loneliness almost certainly still existed. Anyone cast out of the group, punished, aging, or simply different would have felt that same ancient ache, only sharper because there was nowhere else to go. Ostracism was one of the harshest punishments a small society could hand down precisely because isolation from the group wasn't just emotionally painful, it was often fatal. Researchers studying small-scale societies today, like the Hadza of Tanzania, have found that being excluded from camp life carries consequences far beyond hurt feelings. Food sharing, protection, and information all run through social bonds. Cut those bonds, and everything else unravels with them. No group means no one to share a kill with when your own hunt fails. No one to warn you the river has changed course. No one to sit with you through a fever in the night. So ancient loneliness was rare, but when it happened, it was brutal. It meant real physical vulnerability, not just an empty feeling, but an empty camp, an empty hearth, no one coming back before dark. Modern loneliness is common, but usually survivable. You can feel isolated and still eat, still sleep somewhere safe, still wake up tomorrow with a functioning body and a locked door. Your ancestors couldn't count on that. For them, the feeling and the danger were the same thing. For you, the feeling remains, but the danger, most of the time, does not. Which raises the real question hiding underneath all of this. If the feeling is so ancient, why does it hit so hard in a world that is, on paper, more connected than ever? Because your brain can't tell the difference between a text message and a hand on your shoulder. It evolved to read presence through voice, touch, shared meals, shared fire, the specific rhythm of a familiar person moving nearby. A notification lights up the same craving without ever satisfying it, the way a photograph of food can make you hungrier without ever filling your stomach. Public health researcher Julianne Holt-Lonstad has spent years comparing the health effects of social isolation to other well-known risks, and her findings are hard to ignore. Weak social connection carries a mortality risk comparable to smoking several cigarettes a day, and in some of her analyses, comparable to obesity or physical inactivity. Your body treats disconnection as a physical threat because for most of its evolutionary history, it was one. Think about the strangeness of that for a moment. A species that built cities, satellites, and instant global communication still runs on a nervous system that treats an unanswered message the way it once treated a predator in the tall grass. Progress rewired almost everything about how you live. It didn't rewire the alarm. So every time you feel that specific hollow ache after a day of talking to no one but a screen, you're not malfunctioning. You're running software built for 150 faces you'd know by heart. In a world that hands you thousands of faces you'll never really know at all. The ache isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that something ancient inside you is still working exactly as intended, still counting familiar faces, still coming up short. Ancient humans were rarely alone, and when they were, it meant danger. Modern humans are rarely truly alone and yet feel isolated constantly. Same alarm, completely different world ringing it. Notice the shape of that reversal. Scarcity of solitude used to be the normal condition, and true isolation was the rare, dangerous exception. Now solitude is everywhere, built into apartments, commutes, cubicles, and screens, while the deep textured presence of a group that truly knows you has become the rare thing. You didn't lose your tribe all at once. It thinned out gradually, generation by generation, replaced first by neighborhoods, then by co-workers, then by contact lists, until the word connection came to mean something your ancestors would barely recognize. Here's the strangest part. The cure your brain is asking for hasn't changed in 50,000 years. Not more contacts, not more notifications, not a bigger network or a longer list of followers. A shared meal, a familiar voice, physical presence in a room, even in silence. A face that knows your name and means it when they say it. You can't scroll your way out of an alarm built for firelight and shared hunts. You can only answer it the way it was designed to be answered, by actually closing the distance in person with someone who already knows you. Tonight, when you feel that quiet ache while surrounded by 300 contacts you could message but won't, remember what it actually is. Not a modern failure. An ancient signal still working exactly as designed, still waiting for the one thing it was built to recognize. Someone who actually knows your face.